الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أولا يعلمون أن الله يعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون ومنهم أميون لا يعلمون الكتاب إلا أماني وإن هم إلا يظنون فويل للذين يكتبون الكتاب بأيديهم ثم يقولون هذا من عند الله ليشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فويل لهم مما كتبت أيديهم وويل لهم مما يكسبون صدق الله العظيم. From Ayat number 77 of Surat Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear that the Bani Israel, the Yahud, the Jews, they used to have secret councils where they very particularly instruct one another not to disclose many facts within their revelations, especially such facts that coincide with the Quran and the Wahi directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They used to tell one another that, are you trying to make an argument against yourself? And the real reason that deep down inside, many of these rabbis, they believed that if people started accepting Islam, or even if they accepted Islam, they would lose their authority over the people, their control over the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His fadl and karam and rahmah, out of His grace and mercy, He has made the Quran accessible to all of the believers. Anyone who accepts Islam takes great benefit from the Quran. And this Quran is such a kitab, such a book, such a revelation, that it is even accessible by those who are not Muslim. If they're seeking guidance and seeking hidayah, there are numerous stories and cases of people who happen to just pass by the Quran or get their hands on a Quran, and eventually they accepted Islam. There are so many stories like this of people who have come to the deen of Islam when they got their hands on a copy of the Quran. Even one case came to us that one of the people, he got on a bus and somehow he happened to be coming to a seat, and the person sitting beside him was reading a book, and that person got off, so just handed him the book, that here, you can have this. The person got off, and the person was saying, when I got to my destination, I was just looking at it, what kind of strange book, why is he reading this? He said, I flipped through it, it didn't really make any sense. He said, when I got off the bus, I was just wondering that, who wrote this book, Let me just at least find out. He said, I opened the first few pages. On the very first page, it said, this is a book, there's no doubt in it. He said, what kind of author would make such a bold claim? This is way too bold to be true, He said, I started reading. I said, what a strange book. He said, I started reading, and it came to me that, this doesn't seem like this could be written by a human being. He said, I just started coming to this conclusion. What is this? This cannot be. No way that a normal human can have This kind of information. He said, I started trying to find someone and I went to the library and I passed by, I asked for the eldest, the most senior librarian. They found one. Very old person was working at that library. So I asked the librarian, what is the most unique book you have in this library? The librarian brought the Quran. He said, I didn't know it was the Quran. He said, all of a sudden it looked the same as the book I had. I said, yeah, it's funny, I have this too, What is this book? So the librarian gave me da'wah. Even the librarian wasn't fully Muslim yet, was considering accepting Islam. He said, through that, I found out there was a masjid nearby when I accepted Islam. So there's so many stories like this, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this Quran accessible to everyone. I had one friend, and I have a friend who was, at the time of the Vietnam War, he's an elder, very elderly. And he was in the military at that time. When he came back, he was very disturbed. Many of the Vietnam vets, when they came back, they had various levels of stress, and they had seen a lot of different types of human tortures and hardships they saw in the people. It causes trauma to people. So he said, I was discharged from the military and I even left my home, and for a long time I was just wandering. So he said that he got into music. He opened up some studio and he was with some friends. And he said one of the friends happened we were just hanging out in one place, and one of his friends had come and just happened to hand me a Quran, that this is what we believe. And we just got into the discussion of belief. And he said, I went home that evening, sat down on the couch. He said, the guy told me that if you ever hold it, just wash your hands, make sure you're clean. I respected that. I opened the book. He said, I just randomly opened it. I was reading. And he said, I came to the ayah in Surah Yasin, وَالشَّمْسُ التَّجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا, that the sun is running in its own orbit. He said, man, come on. Whoever wrote this has no idea what they're talking about. He said, I put it down. He said, there's no way the sun can be. Sun isn't an orbit. He said, everything is orbiting the sun. The sun doesn't orbit anything. I put it down. It's kind of what nonsense, He said 1 day passed, 2 days passed. He said, but that stuck in my head. The sun orbiting. So he said that 2-3 days later, I was just flipping through the channels. And he said, it's just some science facts about the sun, He said, what is this? I said, just hold on, let me see what they're talking about. They said the sun is this big and it has this much energy and whatever they were talking about the sun. And finally they said the sun is also in an orbit over another star, Star Vega, and this, and is going in an orbit. And he said that's when I just stopped. I said, what? I'm sitting here. How can a human being know this? He said, I've tried to find the facts. They mentioned some scientists in 18 something, they had come up with this fact and found the sun moving, and they found the orbits and how they found it. So he said, I went back and I picked up that book. I said, no way. Somebody said this is not changed in 14 centuries. How can someone know something like this? Yes, I started reading, found a masjid nearby, got in touch with the imam, finally I accepted Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this Quran a book of hidayah for anyone and for everyone. And everyone has access to it. It's a beautiful book. It can easily be understood. Yes, the Quran is so deep that even the ulama, till the qiyamah, till the day of judgment, they'll find facts in the Quran. But at the same time, it is so simple that any layman who, if the Quran is translated in their language and they can understand how to read and write, they can understand what the Quran is talking about. That's how unique this Quran is. And it is accessible to everyone. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done this so that no one may be able to add or inject anything into this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is not part of the deen. And no one will be able to take out or change the ahkam of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this Quran universal. As far as the scriptures of the past, so the rabbis in the Torah, when they were given the Torah, they made one pact that no normal person was allowed to read the Torah. And then this passed on even to the Bible, and the various scriptures that were revealed, people then added their own to it. They have the Bible. The Bible is not that which was revealed to Isa alayhi salam. Only part of it is. the Injil or the Anajil, that portion. But the rest is just additions and interpretations. But those original scriptures, it was one common thing amongst the scholars of those religions, more specifically the rabbis, that the common public is not allowed to have access to that book. Only the rabbis were allowed to have access to it. And they did this so that they could have authority over the people, and the people can come to them to ask questions or to find out about their laws and rules and regulations. And often a time it used to happen that people who did not have access to that book, so they used to say their own things from their own side, that we think that the book says this or the book says that, because they didn't have access to it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions within these ayat, وَلَا يَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا يُسِرُّونَ وَمَا يُعْلِنُونَ. That don't they know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what they expose and what they have in their secret meetings, what they say to one another. These rabbis, whenever they would have their meetings, they used to tell one another that don't spread the deen. Don't acknowledge that what the Quran is saying is fact, and no one can verify because you've kept your books hidden. Your scriptures are hidden. No one has access to it, so how will anyone be able to even verify? The only way they'll verify is if you expose it, so don't expose it. As for those who did not have access to those books, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the next ayah, ayat number 78, وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ. Amongst them were many ummiyun, people who did not have any knowledge, they were illiterate. لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابِ. They had no knowledge of the book. إِلَّا أَمَانِي. Except their own wishes and their own desires, their own thoughts. We think it says this and we think it says that. Even some of the rabbis who claim to be experts, they never really studied the whole book. They only studied certain portions and that was enough. And from that they used to make their own ideas of what the rest of the book says. وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. They're only making conjectures coming up from their own side. And they used to do this, they used to keep this in their own circles so people would come to them and ask them for religious decree or for law. We say fatwa. They used to come to them for fatwa. He used to ask them to give us a fatwa related to a certain case. Now these rabbis had made a business out of it. If there was 2 cases that came to them and they could make money off of it, they would try their best to make money off of it. If someone was a thief who had stolen, but he did not have any money to pay the rabbi, so the rabbi would inflict the harshest of laws against him, cut his hands off and do this and do that to him. But if it was a cunning rich person, so they used to barter a deal and this rabbi would change something or bring out a part of the book and just kind of, oh, this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just forgive the person. But at the same time, he would take his cut with it. This is how they used to make changes in their own book. And the original form was then distorted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in these ayat, in a form of cursing them, فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ. So then wail and curses be on them for what they used to write with their own hands, making additions to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or cutting off and erasing portions, removing portions of the ahkam of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses them with wail. This term wail in Arabic, it means woe and destruction and curse. But this is also a name of a valley in the fire of Jahannam. In the fire of Jahannam, there is one valley that is called wail. There's a valley of curse and destruction. And it is so severe, this valley itself, that even Jahannam asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection from wail. You can imagine how severe it is. We seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the fire of Jahannam, because we understand how severe the fire of Jahannam is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all of us. Jahannam makes dua that, oh Allah, you save me from wail. That's how dangerous that valley is. So those, when you find in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He curses certain people or certain groups of people or certain people with a particular quality, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also indirectly telling us that these people or these group of people, they will be in that valley of Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all of us. So here for wailun, then wail, woe, curse and destruction. But also they will be in that valley of Jahannam. Who? الَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ. Those who wrote the book with their own hands. They made their own additions, they subtracted, they made up their own book. And not only they wrote this with their own hands, ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Then they were going around saying, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا كَتَبَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that wail on them for what they wrote. وَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا يَكْسِبُونَ. And wail is for them for whatever they have earned. This is because of them distorting the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indirectly, this is also a very, very strict warning for all of us. Be very, very careful what you say about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we claim something and we don't really have knowledge of it. We don't really understand the depth of it. We just hear and we relate. We don't really verify. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has told us in a hadith, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ كِذْبًا أَوْ كَذِبًا أَنْ يُحَدِّثَ بِكُلِّ مَا سَمِعَ. That it is sufficient as a lie, or the person will be considered as a liar, if he just relates whatever he hears, without verifying or without checking. Is this really from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this really the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this really the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Is this really the words of the fuqaha, that they've extracted some hukum from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this really a proper fatwa, or are we just hearing from our own side and we think? Because if we think and we make our own laws, we're just causing our own destruction. And in multiple places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very, very clear. لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لكم. Don't make haram the pure and halal things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for you. And other places in the Quran, don't make lawful the things that are haram. So throughout the Quran, we're told very, very clearly, be very careful. If we don't have knowledge, so don't give your opinion. Don't give your 2 cents. This is a 21st century term, my 2 cents, it means your opinion. So don't give your opinion. Why are you giving your opinion? You don't know and you're giving your opinion. It's very, very dangerous. Sometimes we don't realize how dangerous the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can be if we give our own opinions and our own ideas. It's a very, very delicate matter. Our example is like someone who needs surgery. Whenever someone comes to ask you about a hukum of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, think that this person needs surgery. Not everyone can do surgery. You have to get a surgeon, an expert. Then they can do surgery. If everyone says, hold on, I can also do. I know how to, I can also use a knife and I know how to. What do you think will happen? How many cemeteries will we fill up and how quickly we'll fill them up? Huh? We understand how delicate this is. And living in such a society, we may get arrested very quickly. That really you're a surgeon, what's your qualifications? So similarly, we understand how delicate and how serious that can be. We should also understand that more serious than this is giving a fatwa when we don't know. We should be very, very careful. There was a discussion between a doctor and one of the other ulama. They were sitting there. So the doctor, he says sometimes when we make mistakes, we bury our mistakes. It's a harsh way of saying that under our care if someone dies, so the worst that happens, we bury them. And we say, okay, it was a medical mistake, it happened. So the sheikh told the doctor that, what's sad? Is at least you can bury yours. We have to carry ours with us on the day of judgment. And if we gave someone something wrong and they followed it, the burden falls on us. And on the day of judgment, we have to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, it can also happen that we'll go to Jahannam for it also. This is how serious the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Sometimes you tell someone something and we don't know. We read one hadith or we read one fatwa somewhere and now, mashallah, we become experts. Why? Because I know Arabic. This is not any kind of qualification. Go see the funun and the ulum that are needed to understand the Quran and Sunnah. You'll be surprised. So this is what these ayat are talking about. And these rabbis used to change the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed them. Similarly, indirectly, this is a very, very serious message for us. Be very, very careful in dealing with the ahkam of deen. Direct people to the ulama. Tell them, I don't know, go to the sheikh. Even amongst the ulama, there are different groups. There are people who deal with sharia. Those that study iftah, those that are mufti, those that are fuqaha. Not every sheikh or every alim is even a faqih. Even they may direct you to an expert. There are those who specialize in particular parts of Sharia. The ulama and muftis who deal with finance, there are some who deal with marriage, some who deal with inheritance. Ya subhanallah, inheritance. It's a whole different field. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also has experts. And that is why it is very, very important that we understand this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses the rabbis for making up their own deen, adding their own into the writings of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who gave them the right to do this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا كَتَبَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. So wail on them on whatever they wrote with their hands, whatever they added with their own side, whatever they omitted and deleted. وَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا يَكْسِبُونَ. And wail on them for whatever they earned. They used to do it for a miserable price. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they did this لِيَشْتَرُوا بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. They did this to earn some money. And the term here used is ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا, a small price. All of the treasures and the wealth of this dunya, to one hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a small price. Because the treasures of this dunya, they can end. But that hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it is changed, and you've sent someone to Jahannam, then that Jahannam doesn't end. It's forever. That's why it's very, very careful. We should be very, very careful with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The treasures of this dunya are nothing. We should not sell our deen for this dunya, for the wealth of this world. It doesn't mean anything. This wealth is very temporary. Today you'll have it, tomorrow you won't have it. That's the nature of wealth. There used to be a time you could count it. Now it's just numbers on the screen. And you feel happy that it goes up, or you feel sad it goes down. Just numbers, That's all it is. And that is why the Arab have called it mal. Mal means wealth, but if you check the original meaning, mala yamilu, something that's always falling down, You ever check the currencies? Up and down, up and down. They're never stable, always falling. Something happened and they fall. Very delicate. And there's the nature of the wealth that we have also. Today we have a certain amount, tomorrow it's not the same. It goes up and down, fluctuating. Sometimes we buy so many things we don't even realize. At the end of the month we check, we say, how did it, what happened? How many things do we buy? And then we try to console ourselves. I only put gas in the car, just to make ourselves feel good. Like, that's all I did. You don't realize. This is the nature of wealth. So for this you're selling the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something that doesn't change. What a terrible bargain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the psychology of those who do this. Why do they do this? Someone may ask, why? What is the reasoning for this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the reasoning that why they do this, وَقَالُوا, because they say, لَن تَمَسَّنَا النَّارُ إِلَّا أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودًا. The fire of Jahannam will not touch us except for a few numbered days. This is their very, very firm belief. And they actually have two opinions amongst them. One opinion is that they believe that humanity will live on this earth for only 7,000 years. They believe that humanity, from the beginning till the end, they will live on this earth for only 7,000 years. From Adam alayhi salam to the last human being, all of human history is only 7,000 years. This is what they believe. And they've taken this from their own scriptures, or at least they made up this idea from their own side. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He created everything in 6 days. That He created the heavens and the earth, fi sittati ayyam, in 6 days. So they say that the 7th day of the week that we have, so that means that every day is representing 1,000 years. Do you understand? The 7 days in the week, they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in 6 days, and each one of these days is actually representing 1,000 years. So they say that the time span of us living on this earth is about 7,000 years. They say that because they were chosen and they are special and they are, na'udhu billah, the children of Allah, they say that if all of humanity was to burn in Jahannam, all of humanity will burn for 7,000 years. But because they are special, they will only burn for 1 day out of the 1,000 years that someone else will burn. Ayyamam ma'aduda, only few days. That's what they believe. They said, okay, they first believe that they won't go to Jahannam. Why? Because they are, na'udhu billah, abna'ullah wa hibba'u. They are the children of Allah and they are the beloved of Allah. They firmly believe this, that they are the children of Allah, they are the loved ones of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they ever get punished, for how long? Only 7 days, maximum. The Quran has given them an answer that if you truly believe this, so just commit suicide. rid the world of yourself. But unfortunately they didn't accept that either. But anyway, that's one belief. There's a second group from amongst them also. They say that the worst sin that they ever committed was a Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, when he went to the Mount Tur and he did i'tikaf with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He met with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam, told Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلًا, that we appointed for Musa alayhi salam 30 nights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلًا. When Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam went to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those 30 nights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed another 10, added 10 more nights. Okay, made it 40 nights. Okay, in 40 nights, major transformation can happen in the life of a human being. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose from Musa alayhi salam those last 10 nights. Now the Bani Israel didn't know about that. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he didn't know. When he came to do i'tikaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him stay 10 more nights. Those 10 nights are actually a test for the Bani Israel, to see what they would do in the absence of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. So after 30 nights, when Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam didn't come back, so what did they do? They started worshipping the calf. They took the ijl, the calf, for worship. They say that we worshipped that calf for maximum 10 nights. Samiri, he made that calf in 2-3 days or 2-3 nights. And then the 7 nights, they worshipped the calf. They did shirk. 7 nights or maximum 10 nights. So they say that that is the worst sin that we as Bani Israel ever committed. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was ever to punish any Israeli, any Yahudi, any Jewish person, how long will He punish him? For the duration of 7 nights or maximum 10 nights. Ayyamam ma'aduda. Only for a few nights. Inshallah, we stop here and we'll continue from tomorrow the tafsir of this ayah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالقرآن وزين أخلاقنا بالقرآن ونجنا من النار بالقرآن وأدخلنا في الجنة بالقرآن. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا وفي القبر مونسا وعلى الصراط نورا وفي الجنة رفيقا ومن النار سترا وحجابا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.